Hello, and a very warm welcome to Cultural Communication Confidence with me, Victoria Reynoldson. And I'm really excited to be back doing some solo episodes now. So, I've had a series of fantastic guests on the show recently, interviewing them to understand their leadership lessons and advice to people today. But I wanted to create some solo episodes again. So I'm really, really pleased to be back. And I want to dive straight into where we are in this current moment of time recording, which is early in 2025. I know that from many of the conversations that I'm having with clients and also potential clients, that there is a lot happening in the world right now. There's a lot of change. There are many people facing redundancies, restructures in their organization, retrenchments, and changes to their role. It feels like that most people I am speaking to who are working in those organized types of organizations are facing something like this, and it is creating a lot of uncertainty. Perhaps you listening to this right now are also experiencing this as well. And so I thought it was really important thinking about global leadership and thinking about what is important in this moment to do an episode all about taking charge. And I'm going to be talking today about my suggested approach with my take charge triangle. But I also want to acknowledge that this is something that is happening to people, regardless of whether you've been working for 1 year or for 30 years. It's happening in organizations, small and large. And I understand how frustrating, how stressful, how worrying it can be. And I know it personally because I've been there myself. So, in my previous marketing career, working in global organizations, I also face these kinds of situations. And even if you're not directly impacted yourself, I know that feeling of how it creates an environment and an atmosphere which is really tricky to move through. It feels like everything is on hold, everything is paused. And that's quite tough because if you're one of the people who, even if you're staying within the organization, you've got to somehow find that motivation, that drive to keep going in times like this. So, this is what we're going to talk about today: how to take charge and lead yourself through times where it feels like everything is up in the air, everything is uncertain. Before we get into the take charge triangle, though, I just wanted to share with you that because people are facing times like this, I have created a free resource which is all about helping you on your journey, whatever you're facing, and helping you to lead yourself. This is a 5 day mini training, mini videos each day for you to watch direct to your inbox, but high impact, very valuable content that you can learn from in 10-15 minutes and put into place now. So, if you would like me beside you at this time, if you'd like to tap into that free training, then just head over to www.culturecuppa.com/leader, and I'll put that link into the show notes. But coming back to the present moment, when I was looking into the data and the statistics, I saw various views on how many organizations will be impacted, how many people will be impacted. And of course, there are different predictions and forecasts. But even just looking in the UK alone, the CIPD is predicting that 25% of organizations will be facing some sort of reorganization, some sort of redundancies, or at the very least, a slowing down in recruitment. So it is significant. And I've already talked about that sense of losing motivation and focus. When everything seems like it could change tomorrow, it's really hard for you to keep going, to keep delivering. And I was speaking to a potential client recently, and she talked about the fact that she was, even though this moment was happening, that there was even more pressure to deliver, that there was a sense of getting things outdone and actually out there, even though the role was being made redundant. So it might be that even though you're facing this, you're under more pressure than you have been previously. So I just want to acknowledge this. And this is why, this is such an important part of moving yourself forward. This is why I want to talk to you about this take charge triangle that I have developed. And this was something that was a topic, part of a topic that I did for a talk for a women's network in a very large global organization, where they wanted to talk about empowering self leadership. So, this take charge triangle, as you can imagine, has three key points. It starts with, who are you? Self awareness. That's the first point. So, who are you? That feels like a really big question. And you can answer that question through the lens of your professional life, or you can consider it in your life more broadly in the wider context. But I want you to ask yourself, at moments of critical change, at turning points, it's really good to reevaluate what drives and motivates you. What is it that you're super excited to be doing? What is important to you? And actually, sometimes when we ask that question, what is important to you? We recognize that we don't have all of that present in our life right now. So this is the moment to really understand, what do we need to bring in? What do you need to do a good job? And I think this kind of clarity, having this kind of focus, can be very, very helpful. So it starts with this point of, who are you? The self awareness. The next point in the triangle is about how you do it, your energy. And you will recognize that there are certain days when you are feeling upbeat, energized, lifted up. And there are other days when you just feel completely emotionally drained by what is going on around you. So, this is a very good moment to hit the pause button, to recognize what makes you feel good and energized. What really makes you, whether it's an activity or a task or a project that you do, or even people that you spend time with, who is it who's putting you in the best frame, in the best energy? And maybe recognizing which activities, tasks, projects, or even people are perhaps draining you right now. I think it's really important to ask these big questions, and those answers may not be easy. You may find that there are certain things that you might need to distance yourself from. Certain people in times like this like to talk about what's happening over and over again, and that's their way of perhaps processing the situation. Now, for some people, if you're one of those, that might be helpful. But if you're finding yourself being drained by the conversations around you, then you might need to put up a little bit of distance to those types of conversations. I once described it to a client as almost putting up the force field a little bit, just protecting your own energy so that you're not being dragged down by the kinds of negative energy or conversations maybe that you don't want to be part of. The final question I want you to ask yourself in this point of the triangle is, what do you need to start, stop, and continue? This question is quite interesting because we often ask this kind of question as part of performance reviews. You might be asked, what do you think you need to start, stop, continue to be more successful in your career path, in your development, but also in performance in your job? But this is also a really good moment to just reassess, take the step back, understand that maybe there are some things to really take charge on and decide for yourself, lead yourself with this. The final point of the triangle of take charge, is what you want to do. What you want to do next. Now, this is about the future, of course, the goal setting. And this might be, for some of you, the hardest point of the triangle. It might be really tricky to see beyond today, to see what is coming up and how you would move through this. So, if you're not ready for this point in the triangle, that's okay. But do keep it in mind. It is a really important part of the take charge triangle because this is where you're going to start setting your own direction. Recognizing that if you had the freedom, and I do also want to acknowledge here, not everybody has that freedom, but if you did, what would you do? What would you choose to do? If you took away some of the constraints or maybe challenge them just to make sure that you're not making assumptions about things you can't do, what would you do? What does ideal look like? What does that next step in your career look like? If you had the choice in the situation you're currently in, if you're experiencing this, what would you choose? Would you want to stay in the organization? Would you want to move roles? Would you want to move into a new career path even and do something a little bit different? Moments of change, this kind of tipping point, turning point, is a really valuable opportunity for you to take charge and be clear in your own mind. The final question I like to get people to think about here is, what would you do if you weren't afraid? That is a big question. And, I ask this of myself. I have to be honest with you. And I would like to think that every leader asks themselves this question. What would you do if you weren't afraid? Sometimes what's holding us back from the best next step for us, the ideal, is that we're too afraid. We're not leaning into we could do. So I want to leave you with that thought provoking question to really see whether you can sit with that question and see what comes up for you. So there we have it, the 3 points of the take charge triangle. They are: who are you, self awareness, how you do it, your energy, and what you want, the next step. This is all about taking charge, being your own leader, but also I sometimes frame it as being the CEO of yourself. Even if you are part of a very large organization, I think in these times we need to lead ourselves more than ever. We need to step into the role of being the CEO of ourselves. So I'm going to ask you a reflection question now. I have shared this take charge triangle with you. So, which is your most important starting point? Maybe as you were listening to me speaking, you recognize that some of these areas you know the answers to those questions. Maybe it's all three of these points. I would love to know. So do reach out to me on LinkedIn, Victoria Reynoldson, my personal profile, and let me know where you're going to start on your take charge triangle. Plus, I want you to know you're never alone in these situations. If you're facing this right now, I want you to know that I'm here for you. I can be right by your side. And that's why I'm offering this free resource, Global Leader Impact. 5 trainings, 5 days, straight to your inbox for higher impact learning, which can help you in these times step into your leadership. If you want to access that, just a reminder, that is at www.culturecuppa.com/leader. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. It's been brilliant to be doing a solo again. It's been a really long time, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, and I've really enjoyed creating this for you. Whatever you're facing right now, I want you to know that we're here for you. And I really hope that things are moving forward for you. Step into that self leadership and make it happen. I'll see you next time on the show.